Hi everyone, happy Friday. At this point, you should be handing in your problem of the week. If you don't have it, you should be seeing me today after school. Okay, read my notes on your check-in, and if you need to, you can pause the video while you do that. It was out of a total of 15 points, and so you can gauge how well you're doing so far this unit for our test on Tuesday. So if you need to pause while you read over my check-in, what this video is going to do is help you go over the questions you got incorrect. Okay, so looking at the check-in, here are the answers. Number one is E. This is worth 2 points. You are being asked to find a probability between 3 and 4 hours. So when you're asked to find a probability, I know that means I'm going to be using normal CDF. Okay, so I figured out my z-score for 3, and I figured out my z-score for 4 by doing value minus mean over standard deviation. If you drew the curve, then it would have looked like negative zero point 0.8, here's 0, 1.2, and you're trying to figure out this probability in between. These are z-scores. So normal CDF, negative zero point 0.8, comma 1.2. That gives you your answer of E. Question 2 was also 2 points. Okay, this one, it says 95% of the test takers score above what? So that means they are below average. The majority were going above. Here's 0. That means this is in the 5th percentile. A couple of you drew this picture backwards and you did below instead of above. So we're doing inverse norm to get our z-score. And then what I set up was, okay, negative 1.64 equals what we're trying to solve, minus the mean, which was 500, over the standard deviation of 100. I solved that for x and I got 366. Number 3 was worth 3 points, and this is where there was lots of mistakes, and you should see my notes to you. You should be looking at your 3-1 and 3-2 notes on this. It was not as easy as it looked. You had to remember that standard deviation and IQR, these measures of spread, are not affected by addition. This will be on your test, so just because we're doing so much with the normal distribution doesn't mean you should forget about this. Measures of spread not affected by addition. So the rule here, that conversion rule, was 40 times b plus 100. So you weren't just doing that for each of them. Any measure of location, so your min, your quartiles, or center, your mean, will be affected by multiplication and addition. This is location and center. But any measure of spread is not affected by that addition. Okay, so a couple of you did get this, so this should be 160, not 260, and this should be 280, not 380. Okay, flipping over. This was worth 3 points. It was not a multiple choice, and we're talking about jet pilots to be in the top 67%. So again, some of your pictures were not correct here. So the top 67%, that's more than 50%. So it's below zero, or excuse me, below the mean, 67%. So this means it's in the 33rd percentile. Remember, inverse norm takes the percentile. So I do inverse norm of the 0.33, I get my z-score. I set up by saying, okay, I'm going to solve for the value minus the mean over the standard deviation. You should have gotten 4.348. Number 5, since it was multiple choice, was only worth 2 points. Here you're being asked, what's the standard deviation? That's a value. So if you want to find a value, you're doing inverse norm. I gave you a hint here that some of you ignored. So it says to be at least 120 years old, that means that they would have to live to be 120 or older. So this helped me draw my curve. 120 or older, I'm shading above. 18% need to do that, so that means this is the 82nd percentile. 82% lies below. So then I do inverse norm of 0.82. I get my z-score. I solve this equation, and I'm solving here for S, the standard deviation. When you do that, you get A. The last question was tricky, but a few of you got it. So the middle 95%, this is a little bit different. I'm given a percentage, so I know I'm going to be doing inverse norm. The middle 95, that means this middle part is 95%. If the total percentage under the curve is 5%, that means half of 5% in the low tail and half of 5% in the high tail. So I want to find this z-score and this one. I need to find 2. So to get this one, I have to do inverse norm of what percent's below it, what percentile, 0.025, and I get negative 1.96, To get this one, I have to say, okay, how much area is below this total? So it's the 0.25 plus the 95. So I would here do inverse norm 0.975, and I get positive 1.96. So now what I need to do is set up two equations to solve for both values. So the first one will be negative 1.96 equals my first x value minus the mean over the standard deviation. And I would also have to solve this one, my second x value minus the mean over the standard deviation. This was similar to your problem of the week, finding the IQR. You're finding two values. Okay, so if you did not do well on your check-in, if you scored maybe a 7 or below, you really should be coming today after school to see me to go over it. I won't be available again until your test, which is Tuesday, so I won't be here Monday after school. So please come today. Remember, now you should be completing the review, and after the review, there's another video for that. Okay, see you soon.